You hear
Aw,
that? They
yeah.
let it go? Nice.
Aw,
You
yeah.
ever voice like a
Yeah!
little nerd. Dude, that's awesome. You gotta use that, like, every sentence or so, maybe every other just so it saves the effect.
It happens. I mean, I don't remember when it became a thing, but pretty quickly, it just became, like, the thing, and now, like, my wife, I think she still doesn't know what I do in here. She's like,
It's
"What do
like
you do
every
in your
so often he
studio all
just
the time?"
yells, "Yeah." Yeah.
And my parents-in-law are visiting, they'll be here today, and they think I'm crazy, but, you know, what are you gonna do?
Love it, man. Um, cool. So yeah, thanks for taking the time. Maybe to start out, so I kind of know your background. I had a buddy in college who was a big Paradise Spears fan, so
Oh, cool.
heard the tunes. But just give me like your background a little bit personally, and then like how you got into the marketing side of things and how the business started.
Sure. Yeah, so, like, how deep are you looking to go? Like, I could give you, like, the short version, synopsis, or I
Well,
could go really
let's.
deep.
So do you have a hard stop at? Are you Eastern time?
I'm in Eastern Time, yep.
Okay, you have a hard stop at 11:30.
I have a hard stop at 11:45, so I have about 15 minutes of bandwidth there.
All right, let's say medium like level deep then.
Alright, cool. Yeah, so I, toured full time out of high school. I grew up in a very small town called, Vermillion, South Dakota, and
Hmm,
my band, when we first started, we were really proud because we, worked really hard to book our first tour, and then realized really quickly that it's not enough just to, like, book the shows. You actually have to figure out how to get people to come out to the shows. And,
yeah.
yeah, I remember, like, going out on tour and playing these shows to, like, a few people in the room, and sometimes it was just the bartender in the back of the room, and at that point, we were, like, living in our van, sleeping in Walmart parking lots. I remember going into Walmart, getting a big stack of flour tortillas and a big jar of peanut butter and,
That
making, like,
was
peanut butter
yeah.
tortillas it's like our go-to staple. Sometimes we would throw a banana in there if we wanted to get really crazy.
Nice.
Um and probably the number one thing that we ever did that changed my life, like, personally, and also changed the trajectory of our band was this idea of, now what we've come to call, like, tour hacking.
Hmm,
And, this one strategy for us took us from that point of, like, living in our van, playing empty shows, to selling 24,000 CDs and, landing a tour with one of our favorite artists in about 6 months.
wow.
And so the idea in a nutshell was there's 6 of us in the band, and so we noticed that our favorite bands who were going on tour, like All Time Low and Blink-182 and Mayday Parade, they, would have thousands of people, coming out to their shows and waiting in line for sometimes the entire day, like, sitting
Right.
on blankets, just so they could get a good seat at the shows. And so we thought, what if we walk up to those people and introduce ourselves? They're just, standing in line for a show, and this is a good opportunity to maybe connect with people who might like our music too. And so we had a pair of headphones and like 20-second clips of our songs, and we just walked up to people who were waiting in line and introduced us and shared our songs. And something crazy happens. Like, I don't understand why. I mean, apparently there's like a evolutionary psychology reason behind this, but doing that is one of the most terrifying things that I've ever
Yeah,
done. Like,
I
walking up
believe
to
it.
strangers, like, it
Yeah.
feels like you're about to die. Like, everything's like, don't do this. This is
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah.
And I was like a super shy, awkward kid, so it didn't come naturally to me at all.
Whose
But
idea was
what
it?
it was, our lead singer's idea mostly.
Yeah,
We had heard about it from there's a really popular tour called Warp Tour that,
right.
all the pop punk bands did, and there's quite a few bands who would, like, do this at Warp Tour, but we hadn't really heard of anyone doing this, like, around different tour dates or different, like, shows.
Yeah.
So we basically, had the thought, like, "Why don't we just, go do this?" And we split up into groups of 2. So there's 3 different groups of us that were, like, following 3 different tours around the country, and we, like, swapped tours sometimes, we, like, bounced between, like, different ones. There was a period
Man.
where Sam, our lead singer, and I were, like, in a Honda Civic that was this, like, old janky thing that it literally broke down, and we were, like, stranded. I wish I could remember the name of the city, but his sister, like, bailed us out because we were just like, "What are we gonna do?" And his sister helped us out. Um, but, basically what we found is that that strategy worked, incredibly well, right?
Mm,
And we sold 24,000 CDs doing that in about 6 months,
wow.
and because of the traction that we built through that, All Time Low, one of the bands that we were, tour hacking on,
Yeah.
heard about what we were doing, and they gave us the opportunity to open for them on their next tour.
Mm.
And so then we went from, walking up people in lines, but like, just following the tour to actually like walking up people in lines, but like, hey, like we're opening tonight, which is way, way, way cooler when you're doing that. Um, but yeah, we made way more connections and way more money doing that than even like at the merch table afterwards, right? It was just like meeting
Mm.
people in lines for shows. And I think for a lot of times, like when people go out to a show, they don't necessarily care as much about the opening band because they don't know who you are. They're there
Totally.
for the headliner
Yep.
band. But being able to connect with them personally before the show was just, it was a really good strategy. And so long story short, that was our kind of our big break, and probably the biggest thing for me personally to kind of overcome the fear of rejection was like meeting those strangers, and sometimes people were like don't talk to me, like keep going. I was like okay, that's cool. But what I found just like people were way more kind and responsive
Mm.
than I would have realized,
Yeah.
and that was the first time too that we had people who, like, were real fans, I guess, or, like, really cared, who weren't just friends and family, who kind of just, like, supported us because they had to, but it was just people who
Right.
were, like, the right people, like, they're at shows, they care about music, they're, like, the right people to connect with.
Yeah.
Um, so, that kind of, launched our music career with Paradise Fears, and we toured full time for about 10 years. Had some like overseas tours that we played, and some of our favorite artists we grew up listening to ended up opening for us on tour,
That's awesome.
and yeah, we toured for about 10 years, and then um, about 5 years ago now, it was a point where all of us were sort of moving in different directions. Like our
Yeah.
lead singer had a book that he wanted to write, and now he's a published author. He's written several books, got like a
Mm.
publishing deal, and
Nice.
I had met my now wife, and
Mm.
we are starting to kind of settle down. And I didn't recognize it at the time, but for me, it was really like now I recognize it was like me wanting to become a dad and like start a family, and
Yeah, yeah.
and so at the time, I was like living a lifestyle that's totally not conducive to being the kind of like father that I wanted to be and being like present for them. And I
Yeah.
was gone most of the year. And so there's sort of this transition period where I was trying to figure out like what comes next because my whole identity and like my ego was all
Wrapped in
about the
that. Yeah.
band and
Yep.
touring full time. It was something I felt really proud of. We did it independently. We never were signed to a record label or our
Mm.
manager, um, and so that was probably one of the most difficult uh, transitions or points of my life because, like at that point, I remember when I found out I was going to be a dad. I was like, like, how am I going to provide for them? How am I like without traveling, without touring? And
Right.
my parents-in-law and like, well, they're like, maybe it's time to get a real job. Kind of this um,
Yeah,
that thing
yeah.
that really like cuts deep. And that was around the time that I was really looking for what comes next. I'm like, am I gonna have to go back to college? I had never gone to college. We had just started touring out of high school, so I
Right,
didn't
right.
have a lot of credentials or experience to like go get a normal job. And luckily, I stumbled across who now is someone who's completely changed my life and has become one of my like uh, biggest mentors. There's a guy named Jeff Walker,
Yep.
and
I've read his book.
um, he's awesome. Yeah, so his same last name, but we're not related as far as I know. I mean, I might have to check with his
Somewhere
family
down the
tree.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, but he has this program called Product Launch Formula, and he does live events, and he has a coaching program, and basically he helps entrepreneurs take their knowledge and turn it into a course, and build a business around coaching and helping other people.
Mhm.
And so I went out to one of his live events, and that was right at the point where I knew I was gonna be a dad. I was like, "I need to figure this out, like,
Yeah,
right away, or else I'm gonna have to go, get a quote unquote real job."
yeah.
And, um, he made an offer from stage, for his launch club coaching program, which was like a $12,000 program. And I must have been crazy because like I didn't have $12,000, and we had just my wife and I had just like bought a house, and I was about to be a dad, and so it was almost like my last effort. I was like this has to have to go. Like this has to work.
Yeah.
Um, and so I joined it, and yeah, for about 9 months, I would say like hustled my butt off and just worked like all the time, worked super hard to get it off the ground, and fell on my face more times than I got, crawled over
So
broken
what were
glass.
you launching to start? What was the first thing you launched?
Yeah, the first thing that I launched was actually a piano course. It
Nice.
was a how to play piano, and it was called Piano Rockstar. And
Nice.
and I worked really hard to create a course. And yeah, I think that one thing I didn't realize at the time, I was a bit like naive, was thinking that because we had built an audience with Paradise Fears, that
Mm,
I would be able to like create this course and instantly just be able to go full time with it. And what I realized is that there's some people who are like in our audience who are fans of Paradise Fears, who are supporters, who wanted to learn how to play piano, and that was great. And
yeah,
the first course launch I did, I think I made like $2,000 or $3,000 selling the course, but
yeah,
that was like me working so hard, getting
yeah,
everything ready, and it was certainly not enough to like provide for my family, and it wasn't enough to cover my expenses from like the coaching
right,
program, um and so, and in retrospect too, now, like looking back, I'm like, man, that was a great like first start. For like the first,
yeah,
it was just that I had too high of expectations, I think, for that first launch
yeah,
because I thought that we had like an audience, but so I probably in retrospect gave up on that idea a little too early. But what what it led to, and ultimately, I mean, I'm super grateful that things happened the way they did, because what we're doing now is a lot more kind of plugged into. I think it's providing much better like service or more value than what I had been doing.
mm,
Um, and it came from it's funny, like it came from a conversation that I had. Literally, I went to the second Jeff Walker event, and I was there the whole time. I was outlining, um, okay, how to like Piano Rockstar version 2.0. Like here's like all the different stuff. I was doing Piano
right,
Rockstar, and
right, right,
literally the last day, as I'm getting ready to head home, the event ends, and then like there's people hanging out by the bar, on the last night, and
yeah,
I'm just I like walk up and I meet this guy Will Hamilton, who's a really successful tennis player and tennis coach,
mm,
and um, and then had a conversation with two guys who I've never seen again. If if somehow they're out there and they're hearing this, thank you, you've changed my life. But it was with these two guys, and I was telling them about, we were talking about like what are you like working on, what kind of courses, and I was telling them about like the piano course, and then I was telling them about Paradise Fears and about like our background with the thing we did with tour hacking,
yeah,
and he's like, dude, that's such an amazing story. Like, have you ever thought about like teaching that? I'm like,
mm,
huh, like, I don't know if it still works, like tour hacking, do
yeah,
people still buy CDs? Like, technically, even when we were doing it, people didn't really listen to CDs anymore, like, they just used iTunes, so it
yeah,
was kinda strange to think that people were, like, buying CDs online. Um, but that was, like, the seed was planted for in my mind, like, for, what if I like, that's the story that usually when I told people, they're like, "Wow, like, what a cool strategy, what a cool idea," like, that
right.
and so, from there, I started reaching out to a few artists that I noticed were like independent, who had great music, but were looking to grow and kind of reach the next
How'd you
level.
find them?
It's a really good question. I think I initially ran some Facebook ads. There
Mm,
was another course from a guy named Ryan Levesque. They called the Ask Method, and
mm,
that was another kind of foundational, a really good one. That was basically the premise was like that
ask
you
people
need
what they
to
want.
ask, like you need to ask people, which is so true. And bottom line, with tour hacking, and now what we teach is like virtual tour hacking. And what we realize is like really the conversation is so important, and like the asking questions and listening
Mm,
is like 9 times more important than speaking, most of the time, like
Mm.
asking the right questions. And so I think that I was actually with his course, and I think I had some sort of free. What I did was I created a free workshop called the Tour Hacking Workshop, and it was a
Nice.
3-day workshop where I basically taught, hey, here's how you can go do this thing that we did with our
Mm.
band, and I recorded it on this like dingy old webcam, terrible quality, and I wonder if even people could find it online nowadays. But I was like, hey guys, like go tour hacking. And,
Like
I had,
Elmo.
like yeah, and I sounded exactly like that. I did my voice hadn't come in yet. Um, but there was, like, 6 or 7 people that were there live for the first one. I did it live on Zoom, and I had run ads to it. So I think I had, like, 100 to 200 people that, like, signed up, and,
Mm.
I had spent a few $100 in ads, and I did it live for, like, 7 people. And on the workshop, I invited people to a free strategy session with me, a free coaching call.
Mm.
And that one workshop and that one sequence brought us to our first 6 figures a year with Modern Musician with
Wow,
that
that's incredible.
dingy old webcam, dingy old workshop. And
Mm.
it also, more importantly, was what gave me a direct line of communication between artists and myself. Like having those conversations is really where I learned,
Huh.
where I could provide the most value, and it's where I booked a few of my first coaching clients. And one of the first bands that I coached, there's 2 guys in the band, and they went out and went tour hacking, and they made $11,000 in a single month.
Wow.
And so I was like, awesome, like tour hacking, like it still works. Like everyone should go tour hacking. But what I found was that people loved the idea of tour hacking and the story and understand how it works. When they're willing to go out and do it, like it worked really well for them. But 99%
Not
of
everybody.
people
Yeah.
are like, it is terrifying to walk up to strangers waiting in line. And I have like a family or a day job. Like, is there any way for me to do this, but yeah, do it like online or a way that's more accessible?
Yeah.
And that's really what led to this idea, which is really probably 99% of what we focus on nowadays, which is what we call virtual tour hacking.
Mm.
And virtual tour hacking is basically the same idea as tour hacking, but done online. So, yeah, what was if you kind of look at tour hacking, like what is tour, and the deeper kind of like the meta level of tour hacking, and I think that this is one thing that I've learned, like from studying, from my mentors and some of the most successful people that I know, is that they tend to focus on the fundamentals and like in getting down to the deep root of like the principles, right?
Right.
And there's always gonna be shiny kind of tactics and things that change all the time. But then there's like these roots, like these core principles. And that's like the people who are the masters are the ones who really go deep on those core fundamentals. The person who's like the number one martial art champion in the world just spends like a couple hours a day just focusing on doing like a punch, like a basic punch. Um,
Does he do the yeah
and
when he does the punch?
probably, yeah. Um, And so the fundamental idea I think is around this idea of like fan base hacking, right? Which is really about figuring out where does the audience congregate, right? Like
Mhm.
where do the people who are most likely to enjoy your music spend their time? And generally, like those people congregate around other artists and other musicians, and they come to like live events, they come to shows. It makes sense that like tour hacking works really well. And so virtual tour hacking is kind of doing the same thing, but rather than walking up to fans waiting in lines for shows, you can target um, people who are fans of different artists using Instagram, Facebook ads. You can also do like YouTube ads, basically like to put your music in front of those people directly.
Mm.
And you need to be it's a little bit more like sophisticated in terms of um when you're walking up to a fan waiting online for a show, like, that they're a really high quality fan who really cares about music because they're there at the show and they spent money to be there.
Right.
Whereas, like, if you're just targeting someone online, then they might have clicked like on like a Facebook page, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're the kind of person that goes out to shows and like really cares.
Right.
Um, but with the online method and with like building funnels, you can create something called a lookalike audience, so that after someone listens to your music and maybe they purchase like a piece of merchandise from you, you can create a lookalike audience from all of those fans and be able to target people that are more engaged, like fans who actually care and get value from the music.
Yeah.
Um, and so the idea in terms of so in terms of tour hacking, virtual tour hacking, it's like you walk up to a virtual line and show, and um, we tested out a lot of different types of campaigns. And with virtual tour hacking, it's like a 20-second video that we have the artist record. That's just them introducing themselves and saying like, "Hey, what's
Huh.
going on? My name's Michael. I play keyboard on a band called Paradise Fears, and we have a new song that we just released. If you like All Time Low or Maybe Parade, I think you might like it too. So if you click on the send message button, I'll send you a song. And we'll have a conversation, and I'd love to hear what you think." And usually we have them record like a selfie video, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that's working like best for us by far. And we have we have artists who are getting thousands of messages per day from people who are seeing those ads and clicking through and listening to their songs. And um, the biggest issue that we usually run into
Do you
is
show a
that
snippet or anything of the song, or is it literally just them talking?
it's usually just them talking.
Yeah.
People we've seen some people get kinda creative with doing, like, a TikTok style video where they can, like, put the text on the page, and
Yeah.
sometimes, like, that's working for artists. It takes a lot more effort and energy to do that than just, like, hold up your
Yeah.
phone, and that seems to work, like, just as well. So it's
Yeah.
worth, like, testing different things, but, we have tested a lot of, like, showing the song and, different types of campaigns. But we also have a campaign, um that's just like a video view campaign where it's a pretty like reliable way to get at least 100,000 views on a music video for less than $500 and ad spend. So that's something that we help people with sometimes too. But it's not as like it feels good because it's like wow 100,000 views, but it's not actually as
Right.
powerful as the messaging campaign because like that's about having real conversations and like connecting with fans, building a relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, but they're both, like, pretty powerful. Um, but, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of the premise of it too. Versatile tour hacking is really about the conversation. Like, I think that
Hmm.
that's where the connection is at, is, like, the back and forth, right? It's if it's totally a one-way, street, then it's a lot less engaging for the fan, right, than if they're actually having a conversation back and forth with the artist. So I think that that's the reason that the tour hacking and virtual tour hacking works so well is because it's actually
Yeah.
based on like human interaction and building real relationship, which at the beginning for a new artist who doesn't have like a massive fan base, is one of the best ways to really kind of get things started by building real relationships.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. So what was the timeline on that? So you went to these events, you did the um, piano class, then you have this webinar series. What's the timeline, and then how did you end up packaging that?
Yeah. So the first year that I started, that was where I was like doing the piano rock star, and and it was right around like 9 months or so of working really hard and not like it and not being at a point that I needed to be, that things really started to kind of gain traction.
Mm.
And that was when I started doing like the coaching and the tour hacking workshop, probably about like 9 or 10 months into it. And it was also when it came time for renewal for like the coaching program. So it was like
Gotcha.
another $12,000.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm so grateful that I did, because I probably wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't
Mm.
taken that leap of faith. But that second year is really where things started to gain traction. By the end of that second year is when we had made our first six figures as a business, mostly through
Right.
the coaching. And through that process as well, like, just, like, doing all the coaching and doing those strategy sessions, was able to sort of create a framework around everything that like, the common things that were coming up for every single person, which bottom
Yep.
line came down to, like, one is, like one of the focus points is, like, artist identity, so it's really about, just kinda crafting their brand and their message and, like, who are they as an artist and their
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Then 2 is about, like, their growing their audience. So, like, now that they have kind of the music, like, how to actually get it in front of new people, the right people are gonna resonate with it. Three was building more of a relationship with those people. Now it's like a casual listener, but how do you actually like have it turn them into an actual fan who cares and wants to support you? Um, and four was monetization. Like, so now you have like an engaged audience. How do you actually make it sustainable? And five was automation. So like now that you have this business, how do you actually make it more scalable and build a team and make it so that you can keep growing it without spending your entire life on social media? Um, so that piece has really been like a process over the last 4 years, right? And is very like organic. Like we added one or two team members at the beginning as I was hitting like my capacity where I just couldn't.
Right.
There wasn't enough of me to keep doing one-on-one sessions with everyone, and so we started building a team. And now we have about 31 team members that work to get on one-on-one sessions with our artists and basically help them to launch their systems and to walk them through those 5 different steps. And it's a coaching program that's like a 3-month coaching program. It's a premium value offer, so it's not for everyone. Like it is, it's for someone if they're like really serious about like doing music full time and they want to kind of take that leap. But we also have a bunch of free resources and trainings and materials. But and yeah, so right now the business is doing about $2 million per year in
Yeah, it's
revenue,
awesome.
and um, and really like the goal is that we'd like to grow it, like to 10x it over the
Mm.
next year, and
Wow,
we
that
have
10x in a year. That's nice.
yeah. Well, I should say so. That's probably incorrect. 20 million in a year would be like way more lofty, but we're aiming for to reach 10 million in the next year,
Mm.
and um and really like numbers are like the money is not the most important part. It's really just a measure of like impact and the value that we're providing. Um, but the way that like really the two biggest things that we're focusing on now that I geek out about the most that I'm so excited about is the software that we've developed for artists. Basically, to we used to use like 7 or 8 different software tools that really awesome, but yet it required a lot of integration between each other.
Yep.
The things
Yep.
like ActiveCampaign, ClickFunnels, Janus AI, Dialogflow, ManyChat, and all these different tools that basically help artists like build digital marketing funnels and run traffic and to automate it so that they can actually have conversations with thousands of people, but do it like automatically.
Yeah.
Um, and so we built it all. We've recreated everything and integrated it through a single software that we call
That you
Street
built
Team.
yourself? Nice.
Yeah. Yep. And and so the way that we built it too is basically like very like internal. We reached out to our community and now we have about 100,000 musicians on our email list, and
Yeah.
basically just asked and said, "Hey, like we're looking to develop a software like this. Is anyone interested?" And Spencer on our team, he's amazing. He's like a genius, and he basically came on and worked for basically a year without getting paid for a stake in this software company, and
Wow.
now, yeah, we just launched it a few months ago, and it's doing a couple $100,000 a year, and and it's paying off for him. But like, it took a lot of belief
Yeah.
and drive for him to really put that kind of energy into it. Um, but there's this 3 team software that I'm really excited about. And then the NFT marketplace is the other biggest thing. And actually, as the time we're recording this, later tonight, we're doing our first official drop on the NFT marketplace.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
so, yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole if if we want to, but it's like very like geeky stuff. But it's fun. And we recently brought on a member of the team who he's like built and sold 6 different software as a service companies.
Wow.
Most recently to like a $500 million company who made him like their flagship product that they're offering.
Wow.
And so he has like a big opportunity to like they gave him like a leadership role there. But I connected with him and we've known each other for a few years now. and he's just really excited about what we're building with Modern Musician and thinks that there's like a $1 billion marketplace opportunity. And so he just came on board to basically help to roll out the NFT marketplace and the software as a service. And um,
Wow.
yeah, it's just lots of the fun stuff.
Yeah, the NFT stuff, I am not too deep into that. I'm at the level where it's like you say things and they're exciting and like it also kind of makes me like anxious.
I just heard honestly, I only started getting serious about them probably about 6 months ago. It was at a mastermind session with Jeff Walker. So
Mm,
Jeff, yeah, he's continued to be like probably my most important mentor for like the business. And
that's awesome.
so he has a mastermind with like 12 different people in it. And a few times a year I'll go like hang out with him and those other entrepreneurs. And he it was at dinner with him at our last one like 6 months ago that he was telling me about this NFT idea, and I was like
Yeah,
and it's rare that I've seen Jeff with, like, that level of conviction where he's like he was there he's like the grandfather of a lot of
right,
online marketing and, like,
right.
product launches, and so he was there when, like, the internet was first really coming up, and so he's, like, describing it, like, how he remembers when the internet was, becoming a thing and how people were kinda like, "I don't really understand this," and it's like but there's this huge movement and this wave, and he's really feels like this, he's getting the same sense, the same vibe from, Web3 and with NFTs, and he was the one who really made me consider it seriously, like, the NFT marketplace idea.
I feel like new technology this is kind of an aside, but I feel like new technologies like that, like the internet or like NFTs now, it's like at first people get really confused by the like how does it work
Mm,
conversation. Like, okay, how does like what is this? How does it work? But like what
mm,
ultimately brings people into it is like what's the value it provides? Like once you see like, okay, here's what it does for me, then I don't care. Like I don't know how the internet works even now. Like
mm.
I think that was probably a huge conversation like 98, like how does the internet work? I don't
Yeah.
I use the internet every day. I understand like 10% of how it works. So I think when NFTs get to that level where it's like the usefulness is just so apparent, I think the confusion around like, well, what is it? Like, how does it all work? That goes down.
100%. Yeah, and I think that NFTs right now, it's sort of like the Wild West because for exactly the reason that you just described, it's like it's early on, and there's a lot of different types of NFTs, and people are like creating NFTs out of crypto punks is literally just like this like graphic images are
Right.
going for millions and millions of dollars for like wait
Right.
what like why um and s and with music NFTs, there's, like, a bunch of different platforms, different types of NFTs, and so there's a lot of confusion just around, like, what exactly is a music NFT, and I think that that's really our focus point with our marketplace is that we want to, create a much, like, easier to grasp and understandable, way to relate with music NFTs for fans and for artists by like creating more of a standard around what these NFTs are and what they look like and how you can purchase them and own them and display them. So that's sort of the goal is to create a much more accessible pathway for fans who aren't necessarily into cryptocurrency or like enjoy this technical kind of stuff to be able to actually get one of these.
Yeah. Nice. Well, cool, man. I want to respect your time. I know you got a hard stop in like 8 or 9 minutes here. All right. Two questions for you. Um, what do you think? I'm kind of get. One was like, what are you most excited about in the next like 6 months? But it sounds like maybe the NFT thing is the space.
Mm.
Is that true? Is the NFT stuff?
For sure. Yeah, I would say it's the NFT stuff and like how that combines with the Street Team software. We're rolling out like that's really kind of the where these three things converge is like
Mm,
having the education and the coaches who can kind of teach artists how to not only create their NFTs but actually like offer them in a way that where they can position the value and communicate it effectively with their fans along with the software that allows them to actually like promote the NFTs and build funnels and websites um, that they can use to drop the NFTs for their fans, and then like the NFT marketplace itself and the materials. So like those three things coming together, I think is what I'm most excited about, and being able to just scale it up big time. Like we can because of our own program and the way that we run traffic, using advertising, we really should be able to scale up these campaigns and in a pretty short amount of time
Mm,
onboard thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of artists, creating
mm.
NFTs into the marketplace, and create just an awesome platform for fans to be able to discover new NFTs.
Nice. That's awesome, man. The last question is, how can like what's the best entry point for artists to get involved with you guys?
Yeah, probably the best way would be to go to our website and seeing the different resources that we have available there. So, if you're just starting out, we've got a masterclass that we do. Usually, we do it live on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, and that's kind of like a 2 to 3 hour masterclass where we go deep into the whole system and share a bunch of resources that essentially is like, because we have a limited capacity of artists that we can work with one on one. We always have about 95% of people who apply for the program we have to turn away because we don't have the capacity on the team, and we're always growing, so we're always like increasing that amount. But it's the main issue right now. Um, and so our way to still provide as much value as possible is by doing those free master classes where we just share everything that we're working on in the funnels and the templates. And that also tends to be the best way to like bring people in who might be a good fit for the program. So that's probably the best place to start, is like the master class. And we also have a bunch of free resources and things that you can discover on the website. If you'd like to apply for the program, then there should be a button on the website where you can do a little bit more research on us. You can see the artists that we're working with, and you can submit an application to apply for a free strategy session with one of the coaches on our team.
Mm.
And yeah, that's where you can go from there.
Nice, man. Good stuff. I'm gonna stop recording here. I can figure it out. There it is.